very rim of known space, justice is a long way away.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie Podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian. And joining me, as always, is your co-host, Spaz.
Bouncing in.
Your co-host, Julie.
Hello from the Great Gray North.
Oh, is it, yeah. It's still winter here in America. Your co-host, Thorsten.
Still somehow alive.
Your voice sounds a lot better. Your co-host,
Thank you.
surprisingly, your co-host, Jacob, joining us from holiday in, where are you in Italy? If you don't mind me saying so. If you don't mind
the
me
mountains.
Oh, is that northern Italy? Am I remembering?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And we're happy that you made it. We weren't sure that you were going to make it. And finally, your co-host, David.
Greetings, everybody.
So, friends, we have a topic this week. It was suggested by our Discord member, Andre, right? That's how you say it? Andre? Am I saying it right? Is it? It's Andre, right?
Oh, say, can you see?
You know what? I say a lot of things wrong, and my wife gives me so much crap about it. Like, she doesn't like the way I say Mario. She doesn't like the way I say Mario, for example, or Nevada. Apparently, I say certain words wrong because of where I'm from, according to her. So I get it. I get it.
Problem with Nevada.
Ubinut?
Yeah. I'm not gonna do it. The topic.
Kubasa nut.
Yeah. Thank you.
Live.
You want to see the whitest white guy? Just look at this asshole right here. So our topic this week is games that we initially bounced off of that we returned to later and clicked with, basically. So a game that you tried once and you're like, what the hell is this? I'm never playing this again. Then for some reason you go back to it. And it finally clicks with you. And so I talk about this. So I'll start because I have two. And the first one is obvious. It should be anyway. I talk about this game all the time. Starfleet 2. Krellin Commander. The video that I'm streaming right now is the first time I ever played this game. I didn't play it when it came out. Sorry, Trevor. I've told you this, but I know you're going to listen. I didn't play it when it came out because the reviews for it were terrible. And so I didn't play it when it came out. And I tried to play it 6 years ago. This video is from 6 years ago when I first tried to play it. And it's embarrassing. It's public. It's embarrassing. You can, if you want to watch someone embarrass themselves, watch me play this for the first time. It is absolutely embarrassing. So I didn't touch it after that for years, but I felt bad. I'm like, there's something here. There's something to this, and I should give it a chance. You know? But it took me 4 years to get back to it. And obviously, once I did, it turned out to be amazing, and it's become my favorite game. But when I first played it, I was so horrified at how bad I was at it. I was so embarrassed that I just didn't touch it again for several years. But something nagged at me. Something was like there was a bit of guilt. What's the gas giant invasion, Fernando? Yeah, it was really embarrassing. So if you want to watch someone be an idiot at a game, watch my first video of Starfleet 2 from 6 years ago. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. But the other game I wanted to mention is X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. When X-Wing versus TIE Fighter originally came out in 1997, I was not a fan of multiplayer at all. I'm still mostly not, but I wasn't a fan of any multiplayer. I'd finished X-Wing with all of its expansions. I'd finished TIE Fighter with all of its expansions. I loved them. So of course, there's a new X-Wing game coming out. I have to get it. And I bought it like the day, like release day. I bought it release day. And I brought it home and I loaded it up. I'm like, where are the campaigns? What is all this? What is all this single mission nonsense? Where are the campaigns? And oh, you have to be online to play this? I mean, you kind of could play it with bots, but it's like they want you to play this online. Okay, I'll try it with my shitty DSL connection. I think I had DSL back in 1997 or 98. Was it 97 or 98 that this game came out? I don't remember. I think it was 97. I think I had DSL, which wasn't great, but it was better than dial-up. And I had such a crappy experience. I didn't touch it for almost 20 years. Like, I hated it. But then once I started having a community here at Space Game Junkie, certain people were like, you should really give this game a try, especially with its balance of power campaigns. I was like, I don't know. But it's actually turned out, I think it was ahead of its time, which is part of the problem. Like, that game is amazing. X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. The fact that you can play through both of its campaigns with 8-player co-op is astounding even today. Like, there's only like a few other space fighter combat games that let you do that. And so it's rare. And I think still, if you want the best X-Wing and TIE Fighter multiplayer experience, you play this. Not Squadrons. Fuck Squadrons. Excuse my language, but fuck that game. Fuck it in the air. Squadrons is shit. If you want the premier multiplayer Star Wars space fighter combat game, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter is still the best pick, I think. But it took me not only getting over my own hatred of multiplayer, but finding the right people to play with. That really turned me around this game. And now I love it. Now I absolutely love it. At some point, I'll finish the balance of power campaigns. They're so hard, you guys. They're so hard. But someday I'll finish them. But those are the two games that I bounced off of initially, but through various reasons went back to and just fell in love with. So, Spaz, you got one?
I do not, because I don't typically return to games that I've dropped.
Okay. That's completely fair. That's good. That's completely fair.
I mean, typically if I bounce off a game, it's because of either major technical issues or because I recognize that it's not for me. And it takes a lot for me to actually bounce off a game. So if I'm enjoying enough of it that I have to stop for a while and I return to it, that's fine. That's not bouncing off of it though, because I'm still enjoying the time that I'm spending with it. But I'm more patient for that sort of thing than most people in our community, I would say. You
have reservoirs of patience, whereas I have puddles.
Considering that, I'll put in 1,500 hours into No Man's Sky. I'll put in 400 hours into roguelikes. I do that, but that's me. And so that's why I say it takes a lot for me to bounce off a game. And if I do bounce off, I generally won't have enough reason to want to return to it.
Right. No, that makes sense.
What else is that?
That makes sense. Yeah, you seem to have more staying power with games than just about anybody I know. Like, I don't know a lot of people who stick with games like you do. So that answer totally makes sense.
I will bounce between a lot of games, but bouncing off of them is a completely different issue.
But you stick with them until you finish, or you get dozens or hundreds of hours of them. You bounce between them, but you still stick with them for the long haul.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that makes complete sense to me that you don't have an answer. Totally fine. Okay. So, Julie, you got one?
I have two. One I just thought about as well.
Okay.
And I think the second one qualifies, which I'd go first because I bounced off it, came back for 6 years, and then quit for a whole different set of reasons. But the first one is EVE Online. When I first tried this, and there's this famous, and I'm sure somebody can link it, this famous graph, and it has it's called Learning Curve, and it's like all these players going off
the
a cliff.
XKCD comic. Yeah.
And when I first started to play this, and I've always been interested in the industrial side of EVE Online, not the let's go out and kill newbies. And so when I first tried to get a handle on the game, now keep in mind when CCP still owned the whole thing, they actually had someone who was an economist on staff to handle the industry side of the game. And so first time I tried to play this and I said, this is BS. I've already got a graduate degree in business. I don't need to do it in my off time. And I quit altogether. And I later came back when they revised the new player system. And I found that I enjoyed the mining part a lot better. And I really and I know some people may think it's stupid, but my big thing was going out there in my Hulk and mining, listening after a really tough day at work, doing nothing but listening to the hum of the mining lasers. And then Hulk again came, and everybody knows what happened with me, and that how I was had this little Hitler thing with me as Hitler on YouTube for a while.
Again, right.
Yeah. And so my second one was X4 Foundations. And I originally bounced off it for the same reason. Is I originally was kind of the tactics strategy kind of part of it was a little much for me. Not the hop in a cockpit and shoot people down. That one's it's kind of a combination game. And so I said, look, this is not for me. And I watched some people playing, and thank you, Spaz. I talked to him about it, and I also found out, God bless the people who made the game, they've got a Discord server where you could go and say, look, I'm stuck. And I think what really did it for me was when they had this little scenario you could start, and it was this race called the Talati, and they're all supposed to be like they're kind of like the Ferengi of the X4 universe. And so there was this one scenario where this Talati, he's a big disappointment to his family. And I said, oh, I got that one covered from the get-go, right? And so he inherits this industrial complex, and he just, it's down and out, and it looks terrible. And you start out by mining and trying to turn the whole thing around. And I said, well, now this I can really get behind. So I talked to Spaz about the game, and whenever I got stuck, I went out to the Discord server started by the devs who made the game, and I said, look, I am just hopelessly mired, and I don't know what to do. And the only reason he ever quit playing the game is because, as I think I've mentioned on another podcast, I convinced the race that are all drones to invade the galaxy. And I said, well, my work here is done. So those are my two games.
It's good to hear that you got help from the community on X4. I've noticed that the community, the X community, is pretty positive and helpful. Unlike EVE Online.
EVE Online is just, oh, noob, go play another game. And, and it's like, well, been playing the game for 6 years, and you're going to run out of noobs. And when CCP finally had to be sold, I was happy to say, I told you so. And so, but I found that the X4 Foundations community, they were great. They had a Discord channel just for people who are lost, and it was just fantastic.
That's really nice. That's really good to hear. It's always good when you hear that a game has a positive community, because so many don't. All right, those are excellent choices, actually. Okay, so Thorsten, you got one?
Actually, two, and both are super embarrassing.
That's fine, man. Don't worry about it.
First, apologies to the developer, because this name comes a second time today, and it's Trevor Sorenson's Starleakins.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's basically the ground invasion game from Starfleet 2, but as a separate game. And as I first started up this game, my first thought was, "What's this? What's going on here? I don't understand anything." And I left it aside for about half a year or so, and then I started it up again and thought, "Wow, this isn't bad. I like this." And I ended up playing it for half a year or so in a row back then. And the second game is even more embarrassing because it's my favorite game ever. And that's Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri Alien Crossfire.
That's a good one.
Yeah, my first thought was when I first started this game up, I thought, "What's this? What's what's going on with these graphics? Why don't I simply use 2D graphics and use this 3D stuff and all that's what's going on there?" And I didn't touch this game for about a year, and then I started it up again. Let's put it this way: I seem to have grown a bit in this year, and I was super surprised when I've actually learned how to play this game, how complex it was or is, and how much depth it has. And actually, 22 years later, I think I've sunk several thousand hours into this game. So I'm still really embarrassed by the fact that I didn't like this game at first. But now, hey, we make errors.
You know,
so
that's totally fine. I mean, that game is awesome. So,
and to be fair, sometimes you're not in the right headspace to use the phrase when you first approach a game. If you're not, say, for example, used to strategy games, that one may not be a good one to start with because of how complex it is. On the other hand, if you're going in with a certain expectation of what it will be, and it defies those expectations, you might bounce off of it for that reason, as opposed to even with experience, you might bounce off of it because you're expecting it to be one thing and you're being handed a completely different kind of game.
Yes, that's exactly what happened with this game. Because seriously, I expected something like Civilization 2 or so, and it was a bit different. Let's put it this way.
I get that. Like if you're going in expecting Civ 2 and you get Alpha Centauri, you're like, whoa. Yeah, no, I get that. They're very different. I mean,
yeah, or to use another example, more recently from one of Brian's streams, the most recent Starship Troopers game. He was expecting certain RTS controls and certain RTS standards that other RTS games use, but because he went in blind and didn't know that they did things a lot differently, he ended up bouncing off of it because of the things that are unconventional about it.
Yeah,
which other people have enjoyed.
I should return to that one. I feel kind of bad about it, actually. I honestly do feel bad. I feel like I didn't give that one a fair shake because I, again, went in blind, you said. Maybe I'll give that one another chance at some point. But, man, now I want to play Alpha Centauri. It's been a while, and that game is still...
It's really good.
I still
so don't know how to play it, but it's really good.
Oh, it's so good. It's so
Play the demo.
Good. It's like it's worth the $6 on GOG. It's just worth the $6. God, you can play that game forever. And like Thorsten said, people probably have. Man, that's a great game. All right, Jacob, what do you got?
So for games I dragged myself back to from a pit of not playing them, the obvious one here is a game I keep mentioning recently because I played it recently a lot. That is Guild Wars 2, which I came back to because it got a Steam release, and I dropped it because I don't know, it was 10 years ago. Genuinely, I played it like shortly after release. And at the time, I didn't really figure out how to make it work.
It's a very
because I was a dumbass.
Well, it's also a very different, like a lot of MMOs like World of Warcraft and Lord of the Rings Online. Like you go to a quest giver, you get a quest, and you do that ad nauseum, and you just keep. And quests are a little different in Guild Wars 2. The world works a little differently in Guild Wars 2. It's really its own thing. So.
Absolutely.
I've bounced off it a few times, honestly. I came back to it for the Steam release as well. And I have to remind myself that it's trying to do something a little different than my usual Lord of the Rings Online. You know? So I totally get that one.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it because any reason I would have had for ditching it was long forgotten by, well, me. I think at the time I was just like stuck somewhere and didn't know how to progress, or I didn't really figure out how the game worked. Also at the time I was, what was I? All right, 13. Yeah, I'll do it.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I could have,
but I came back to it recently after the Steam release, and it is very much fun.
I don't know if I would have enjoyed Guild Wars 2 when I was 13. Honestly,
Couldn't tell you. I didn't. At the time I played, what the hell did I play at 13? A lot of weird things. Don't remember what exactly.
Right. And what's the other one you're about to say that before I interrupted?
Well, I'm thinking because I don't have any like that I can recall immediately. I think I have a few that I ditched, came back to, and ditched again. Because I do have a few games that I play like once a year, a lot, and then come back to them and then leave them again and so on. There was actually, there was the one game, Shadow Empire. I believe you have a channel for it here, and you should be familiar with it. It is the big, not necessarily 4X. It is the big, like grand strategy 4X-y thing from Slytherin that is kind of like mashed together of Civilization and these big line strategy games with hexes like Panzer General or Eastern Front, like old school war games and these sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's like
I thought it was fun.
It's like a mix of Civilization and Panzer General with an insanely detailed supply system.
Correct, which is exactly my kind of game, but it's also a lot of learning.
Yeah, it's a ton of learning, and there's an expansion coming out for it. I can't wait for that.
And there's an expansion adding boats,
Yeah.
which is I am legally required to play it now. It has boats. I'm legally, morally obliged to play that game. If it has boats in it, I have to play it. Sorry.
Can somebody link this, please?
Hold on, let me get it.
I don't know if
But are they nice boats?
Why? Because Shadow Empire is one. It comes very close to Alpha Centauri in a lot of.
It is a very similar game now that I think about it. It's a very similar game.
It does have a very similar vibe. You're absolutely correct. It does.
They're both on like an alien planet, except Alpha Centauri is preset, while Shadow Empire has a very extensive planet generation, which lets you screw yourself over completely in the creation menu because you end up on a planet you cannot survive on. But of course, yeah, it is far more in depth in the actual shooty phase of it, because it was designed less like Civ, where you just throw units at a problem until the problem goes away, and more like an actual order of battle game with, logistics and supply lines and unit templates and fun stuff. Fun stuff for insane people like me.
Thorsten, I just linked. They have an announcement on what the Oceania DLC actually is, and it looks super exciting.
Why did I miss that?
It has.
They haven't.
Yeah,
really
it's an entire DLC that adds boats.
They haven't really been like huge about promoting it. Honestly, I don't know why, but like it's kind of been on the down low. Really, like.
Yeah, but I'm really excited for it. It has boats in it. I have to play it.
Okay, so since you said that, we're going to go on a slight tangent here. Since you said that, Jacob, have you ever played?
Really, on this podcast?
Since you said you have to play things with boats in it, have you ever played the PT boat games from Akella?
No, I have not.
Those are like the most.
I will need to look up those.
Those are like the most obscure thing.
Akella PT boats.
PT boats
looks
Knights of the Sea. Yes, there it is.
Oh, I see. So it's like it's an off-brand. I'm not going to say it's an off-brand for Silent Hunter, but the art style is very reminiscent, and it does exist in this country. Apparently, I could get it for like $5.
Yep.
Sure.
It is.
Don't know why it's here. Don't know why don't know why it's all in stock. Is this okay? So it is from Akella.
Yeah.
But it strongly resembles Silent Hunter.
Yeah, visually, it's very obscure. That's why I wanted to throw that one at you. I'm like, oh, you like boats, huh?
Well, now I have to play it. There is, hilariously enough, there is actually, I believe, there is actually a game similar in style, not in style, in what it's about. It is called simply called Boat Crew, and it is inspired by Bomber Crew.
Right.
From a different. God, who's calling me? 1 second.
No, I've seen Boat Crew. I have seen Boat Crew. I thought you were going to talk about the. I thought you were going to talk about. Hang on. I think you're going to talk about the original PT game from Accolade back in like the early '90s. I think it was. If anyone remembers what I'm talking about.
I remember that one.
My apologies. Mission control called in. Anyways, I'm here now.
No. Oh wow! I forgot that Spectrum Holobyte also did a PT boat game.
Apparently, there are a lot of PT boats.
What the hell was the one from Accolade called? Hang on.
I was just gonna tangent into freaking torpedo boats for the next 30 minutes. I'm fine with that. I just need to know if I should prepare myself.
Oh my god, it's on Steam.
Wait, what?
It's called Gunboat. It came out in
link it then.
It's called Gunboat. It came out in 1990 and it's on Steam. Oh my god.
This is this Vietnam style thingy.
It's a Vietnam game. Well, it's
But yeah, that's the one I was
is the
thinking
highway.
Of. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, a PT, basically a patrol boat, PT boat. But it's Vietnam, not World War II.
Though it is the same
premise.
It is the same flavor of ship.
Yeah, basically. I played that back in the day. It was fun. Gunboat. That was good stuff.
It is. You have a boat with an engine and six machine guns on it, and maybe enough armor to stop bullets on a good day. Best of luck.
Yeah, that was good stuff for 1990.
Apparently, boats are still pretty popular.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that tangent. David, what do you got?
Oh, okay. So we're not going to talk about more boats. Yes, just making sure.
Do you want to?
I mean, we could.
I mean,
I love naval games. We could talk about boats all day. I love naval games.
Can we just do a podcast episode about boats at some point?
Boat game junkie? I'll just launch boat game junkie. Just go all boats all the time. Just anything naval.
Sure.
I would do it. I would totally do it. I love naval games. I'd
be up for it.
An entire podcast filled with navel gazing.
God fucking.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah, I had to go.
And on that, no, we have to carry on. After we're not. It's not getting any better after this. We're carrying on.
Okay. So my pick here. Well, for starters, what Spaz said here in the beginning, I think it kind of applies to me. If it doesn't click with me, I have a hard time going back to it. But I found one. Of those games that I actually bounced back to.
Okay.
And holy crap, it's not as old as yours. It is actually a genre. So when it's Deus Ex.
Shit! Deus Ex.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
it's kind
I
of
want to hear
amazing.
this.
How? Why?
Yes.
This game was amazing from the start.
I want to hear this story.
know.
Wait, let him go. Let him go. I want to hear this story.
But you were talking about boats. Okay, story time. So I am very slow to get inspired to try something new and stuff. So when this game came out in the early 2000s, all my friends were talking, "Oh, have you played Deus Ex? It's so cool! It's so cool! It's amazing! You need to play it." I never played it. I don't know why. I have no idea. So after high school, I actually bought the game on the now defunct game store called Game for about 99 Swedish kroner, which is about $9 for you guys. And I played the training area. Maybe played the very first mission on Liberty Island with Day of Liberty. And the controls were so confusing, and I had no idea what I was doing. That was probably something. What can that mean? Maybe 2006 or something like that. So I was very late to play Deus Ex. Very late. But yeah, I went on to do some other things, and then I finally went back and said, "Okay, so this game has apparently made." This is apparently an FPS that has shuffled around the pages that, okay, in most FPSs, so at the time, if we're talking about Doom 3 or whatever at the time, you're given a gun, you shoot people, pretty much. I'm used to that. But this game is different. It's built different. It's an actual immersive sim. It's my first experience with an immersive sim. But then I changed my mindset when I played the game. I started playing the game like Metal Gear Solid 2, starting to keep to the shadows and stuff the next time I tried it. And then it clicked.
Yeah,
then it finally clicked.
That's the way I always do it. From the shadows, snipey, you know.
So then I realized, holy crap, this is like a first-person Metal Gear Solid 2. Why didn't I play this originally? So I changed up all the controls, made it more a little bit easier to reach, scope controls and all this stuff. And wow, yeah, now I finally understand all my friends back in the early 2000s what we were talking about, because there's so many things in this game to love, with giant levels to explore, an impressive story to follow. Well, the free endings are not maybe that amazing, but there are a lot of good things in that game, and I'm happy I went back to the game because I was so incredibly put off by the weird controls when I played that training level. What is this? Why can I shoot anyone? What is this?
It is so hard to go back to games of that era sometimes because of the controls.
Yeah, but I'm happy I did. I'm really happy I did.
Yeah. No, I'm quite glad you did too, because Deus Ex is Deus. I can never say it. Deus Ex.
Never can I.
I always want to say Deus Ex. I want to kind of combine them into one word in my brain. I don't know why.
And if I may go off on a tangent here after I play the game.
Absolutely.
Okay, tangent time from David. So years later, I don't know, maybe it was about the time when I actually finished the game. The news came out that, there's going to be a Deus Ex sequel. It's going to be a prequel, Human Revolution. And I was like, oh, man. I did at that time try a very, very shortly Invisible War at one's friend's place, and it didn't click with me either. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm not looking forward to Human Revolution at all. No. So about the time I Divine Cybermancer came out as well. I was like, yeah, look at this thing. Look at this crazy thing. So, I was hyped to play I Divine Cybermancer, loved it, and then Human Revolution came out, and I sat there. Should I try this game? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should give it a try. And I'm happy I did.
Oh, really?
Because Human Revolution was pretty damn good.
Oh, really?
They did their homework. Let's just say that.
That was great, yes.
Really?
So
The
many
one
events
thing
to
I would
scroll
have to
through, so
say
many
they did
boxes.
badly. The one thing they did badly with Human Revolution is the tutorializing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, agree.
Huh.
So,
I apparently bounced off of it. I have an hour in it, and I never went back to it for some reason. And I have it. I just never went
it
back
has
to
a rough start, if anything.
Oh, does it?
From what I remember, it's been years.
Yeah, the tutorializing is really bad. They'll put up a kind of a video of how things go, and then you don't really see it again. So you don't actually do the thing. Yeah, so your onboarding is kind of difficult, but if you stick with it, get past all of that, and then give it a little bit of tenacity to push through that.
Yeah.
There's a great game there.
Really?
And a great story there. Yeah, there is.
Okay, I'm gonna reinstall this then.
And I'm happy that they made that director's cut, which gave you one free battery that can recharge at all times. So I haven't tried that one, actually. So
that's
really
what I
need
have.
to go back and try that.
That's what I have is the director's cut.
Yeah.
I should go. Okay, I will go back and give that another shot because I wanted to like it, but for some reason I bounced off of it. So there we go.
Well, it is different. Let's just say that. And if you wonder, no, I haven't played Mankind Divided. I always wanted to. I never picked it up though. I'm not quite sure why. But I heard all but good things about it.
Yeah,
That is bad things.
Yeah, I've not heard great things about Mankind Divided.
About
Deus Ex, Mankind Divided.
Oh yeah, that one is okay. It's not terrible, but it has problems.
I'll say I'll give it a shot at some point.
But David has convinced me to give Human Revolution another try since
Human Revolution is again, both of the like Square Enix Deus Ex games are serviceable. They're not great. They're not the best things ever, especially if you compare them to the original Deus Ex. But as their own games, they're not terrible. They're solid, like open world RPGs. They just have some issues with pacing and their story is kind of weird, and they struggle to stay grounded. That's kind of the big one. Yeah, also, they do the whole your choices matter, but actually don't thing. That's the big one that people always bring up.
Well, I'm gonna give it another try because apparently I bounced off it hard.
It is. It's serviceable. They're solid. They're solid as far as playability goes, I'd say.
There's a RoboCop reference in it.
What?
More than one.
More than one.
Ooh. Okay. I gotta play it just for the RoboCop reference. You know I love RoboCop.
I can actually think of another pick for David. One that he's mentioned before.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Vampire Survivors.
Vampire
about it. Yeah, you've talked about it on the show before. That
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I remember that now.
Yeah, that's an correct observation. I could probably take that one. So, Vampire Survivors, yeah. Feel free to link it down one. I don't have a link ready here. That was a weird thing. So, I spoke here with Julie and Forsten before the stream about clickers, because I like to see numbers go up sometimes. I'm sorry, Brian, but I like those games. I'm just crazy. I'm crazy. Okay. So it's some kind of weird. How can I explain clickers? It's basically the numbers go up, and the bullet heaven genre makes it more interactable. Let's just say that would be my description, and you have more control over what you're doing. So, yeah, I played for about one half an hour, and then I was like, okay, I clearly don't know what it's about. Vampire Survivors. I don't get it, but I'm happy to see others are liking it a lot. So good job, work. I mean, developer, yeah. Because what you can do with Vampire Survivors in just 15 minutes, or well, 30 minutes, which is a whole session, is kind of amazing if you were to boil down a whole 100-hour-old RPG into a 30-minute session where you collect big weapons and stuff. So, yeah. I didn't really prepare for being mentioned of Vampire Survivors again, but yeah, absolutely.
That's a good call.
And also because it clicked with you, you ended up picking up a couple of other Bullet Heaven games as well.
I did. Yes, I did.
So that
Kind of waters.
Yeah, but that's a good thing about coming back to something that you initially bounced off of. It can inspire you to see what else is out there, how else things have iterated since the first thing that you'd bounced off of.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of, well, we're talking about the Bullet Heavens. Arrival Zero Earth did a very weird change when they also updated their graphics. Because in that Bullet Heaven game, you actually had to stand still to fire. You don't need to anymore. Now we can move around and shoot in just like any other Bullet Heaven game. So
Cool.
I think that's probably for the better. So it feels more linked with others of the genre, maybe. I don't know.
Perhaps there are some runs in some of these games where it's actually a really good idea to build yourself so that you don't move. Like Rogue Genesia, for example, which I've played several dozen hours of. There are challenges in which you gain benefits by not moving, like extra armor or more damage. And then when you move, you lose the benefit for several seconds. So if you build yourself so that you're not moving, yeah, you can actually build your build around that idea.
So it basically becomes a tower defense game.
To an extent, yes.
All right.
Yeah, that whole genre is kind of amazing.
It's
Yeah,
always
I've noticed that having been tower defense games are always sort of in the back. They're never super popular, but they're always sort of in the backdrop. They're always there.
Yeah, that they are.
I don't like them, actually. They're neat.
I mean, you got your Creeper World series, which is great.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolute peak of the genre.
it is fascinating to see a subgenre just sprout from one game, like FTL, for example. Or Vampire Survivors. It's always fascinating to see a little new genre come out of one game. I do love that. So Spaz, now that we've had all of our now that we've said all our things, you said you had a tangent you wanted to take us on?
Yeah, there is it's not enough of a topic on its own to justify full podcasts, so I'm tossing this one in here because it is kind of related to what the main topic is. And that is that some games, they get put out there as a not early access game, but they're still in development. And as I mentioned to Brian before the show, that does kind of muddy the waters as far as coverage goes, but it can actually be a really positive thing. And the game I want to mention is one that I picked up recently. It's called Spire of Glory. It is a roguelike with an auto battle system in it. And it's an auto battle system where you can drag select your units and then move them around, but otherwise the combat is full auto battle style. Now, the reason I mention this is because it is still in development, and not labeled as early access. Well, the developer states, as when they were asked about it, that it wasn't the intention to be dishonest, to put a in development game without putting the early access tag. It wasn't trying to muddy the waters necessarily. It was trying to be honest because they weren't sure whether or not they could devote full-time development to the game, and putting it in as an early access game does put a certain amount of expectation as to what people would expect. That yes, it's in development. Yes, it will eventually hit 1.0, or at least that's the hope. But this game was released that you could, in a state where you could get from one end of a run to another, and effectively that's feature complete. They want to add more stuff to it, but they weren't sure they could devote that kind of time. So the honest thing was to not put it as an early access title. They said after the fact, if I could do it all over again, I probably would go the early access route. But when you're putting a game up on Steam, if you don't put the early access tag on it to begin with, and you put it out in the non-early access state, it's considered a released game, and therefore you can't retroactively add it.
Oh.
Tricky subject. Holy
So
crap.
I would think if a game is incomplete, that you should add the tag to it, early access. I honestly,
But that's why I say it muddies the waters a little bit.
Does.
But it can be more honest to not do it that way if you cannot be sure that you're going to be able to make it to 1.0. Because you've seen many examples of games that go radio silent for 6 months and suddenly they go to full release from whatever beta state they were in.
I hate that. Yeah, I do hate that.
And that's the flip side to your suggestion of, well, just put it in early access. Because maybe that doesn't necessarily work out very well for them.
Yeah, but for people like that, their game was never really finished to begin with, so they never. I don't know if they ever should have even started selling it. I don't know.
Yeah, they probably shouldn't have sold it in that case, but at the same time, I see this as, well, someone might bounce off of it because they see an early access tag. And they think, I'll come back to it when it's 1.0. Well, if the game is fully playable from start to finish, but they want to add more stuff to it, does that mean that it's still 1.0 with more stuff to come? Or it's not really so clear cut.
No.
And
really
again,
isn't.
that makes things difficult on the part of people doing coverage. But on the other hand, development isn't necessarily cut and dry, where you can say, oh, this is beta, this is 1.0. These two things are never exactly the same.
I guess it would be nice if the Steam and other places gave developers more choice as to how to flag their games. Like, can you flag a game incomplete? Can you flag it more to come? Can you flag it pre-release? Maybe early access isn't the blanket all term that it's being used for.
I think that's the problem, is that people see early access and they either say something to the effect of, I will not buy early access games because they're not done. Or they will say, it's early access, I'll just wait and let other people do the testing. Something to those effects. Or if they do buy into early access games, like I often do, maybe they'll say, I'll play this for a little bit, put it down and wait for 1.0. And that's totally fine too. But again, it muddies the waters as to whether or not this thing is in a quote unquote done state.
It's an interesting tangent.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I fall on this.
And that's
honestly.
kind of the point. It's not meant to be something cut and dried, because there are many aspects to it. And there are many reasons why someone could see a game that's got the early access tag, plays a little bit, bounces off for whatever reasons.
Yeah,
if they
like
don't see the early access tag and they bounce off, there could also be other reasons for that. But if it's still in development,
Back in
without the
my
tag-
day, we just shipped games on discs and didn't have this dumb discussion. Sorry.
you're not entirely
there
wrong.
is that too.
They're not entirely wrong. I mean, there were rare cases of games getting updates even back then, but you'd have to like, oh, mail in your disc 1 to get a new disc 1 or whatever for your game.
Yeah, there were occasional downloading updates, but I feel like that is kind of another issue. Or it kind of stems from all this stems from a logic problem of people just expecting games as like perpetual content. The games always have more stuff in them, and because of that, you can never tell whether or not the game is actually finished. Because here's the thing: without a set endpoint, games and game development can effectively go on forever. Hence, as long as the money is supplied, hence the game we don't talk about. When that is brought to its logical conclusion, so I feel like it's kind of there's an issue one step above this. I feel, which is admittedly common with a lot of problems. And that issue is the expectation of games just going on forever. The fact that it is not possible to determine determine a finished game from a non-finished one is, I would argue, an issue.
You're not wrong. There is an expectation by gamers that games should offer a lot of games, unless specifically told so, should just offer never-ending content. Like no other medium works,
or never-ending patches.
Yeah, no other medium works like that. Like no one releases a book, and then it's like, oh wait, page 15 is wrong. Here's a new page 15. Oh, here's Appendix A to that book. They're just gonna sell a whole new book. Yeah, movies don't work that way. Music doesn't work that way.
But I'm not even talking about patches or making existing stuff work better.
I know. What I'm getting at is, no other medium has this expectation that this book is going to keep giving me content. This movie is going to keep going on forever. No other
movie, and then 6 months later, here's another stinger to the end of credits.
Exactly.
That's your DLC. No, that's not what happens. That's not how it happens. No.
And it makes me sad that a lot of gamers feel they're owed continual content for these games.
It's hilarious enough why I keep not finishing games, because what the hell is a finish nowadays?
I mean, I do appreciate when a game has a beginning and an end. I mean, a lot of games I could just for example, Inquisitor. I'm really glad the game doesn't end when you finish the quote unquote campaign. But I get that there are a lot of games that the developer had an ending in mind, and I'm fine with that, as long as it's obvious that they have an ending. You know what I mean? But
Fernando brings up a point in Twitch chat. Steam should limit how much time a game is in early access. I'm not sure I agree with that.
Oh.
I'm not sure I agree with that. And the reason I say that is because some games have a long development cycle because there's maybe only one or two people working on it, and they want to add a lot long
maybe don't.
As long as they're here's the thing:
don't put it on Steam. Then don't put it on Steam.
But if you're looking at Star Sector, that's had a really long development cycle.
That's exactly what I was about to bring up. It's not on Steam,
right? But there's also other games that have been on for years, or that had been in development for years, like Pulsar.
I also feel like that just wouldn't solve the problem.
It wouldn't solve the problem, because if you say you can only be in early access for 6 months, or a year, or some other arbitrary time, that doesn't really encompass realistic development. How many games in the last 2 years would have had to force themselves to leave early access if there was a hard limit, so to speak, because of COVID? if there's a hard limit of you can only be in access for X amount of years or X amount of months, and you have to come out of early access at that point, how many of those games that got delayed because of COVID would have had to go to 1.0 release because of an arbitrary limit? And how many of them would have failed because of being forced to release early?
Mm.
And you're right, Fernando. You mentioned a lot of times early access seems to mean in the first stages of development. Some games enter early access while they're in alpha. Others are in beta, but the time that it takes to go from alpha to beta to a 1.0 or what might pass for 1.0 will vary from game to game. You can't really say in an arbitrary sense you must release within this window because things happen. You can't force that. It's bad for developers if you do that.
Yeah. I don't think there's an easy answer to this because there's no one way to develop a game. And there's
and you can't say a one-person team is going to be able to work at the same pace.
Right.
Put out the same amount of product as, say, a 300-person studio. It just doesn't happen that way.
Well, see, that's why I kind of wish there were more ways to mark a game on something like Steam than just early access, because that would allow for more transparency, which is what I think we really need here, is more transparency.
I agree.
Early access, the term early access, I don't think is enough. I think we need to broaden it to allow developers to mark their game however they see fit, to determine, okay, so it's going on sale today. It's in beta. That's where I feel this game is. It's in beta. I'm going to mark it as a beta. It's feature complete. I just need people to test it and find, or this is an alpha. It's not done. I need help with, not only bug fixing, but suggestions on features, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think early access is enough of a tag, basically. For
the thing is, the time was back in the day, as they say,
which was a Tuesday back in the day.
Which was a Tuesday. Back in the day, when you said a game was in beta, it was actually, I was in the beta for Ultima Online. You actually went out there and you tested the game and you turned in reports and said, this is wrong, this is a glitch, they fixed it. But now beta is just something that's like marketing. It says, oh, you have access to the beta.
That's a good point. That's a good
point. And now to the point where Disney has some game out there that's going to be free to play this year, that they were actually selling early access to it last year. And I thought, one of these little plans you're selling here, early access, is like the price of a full game. And yet, if you just wait till like February this year, it's free. And so it's just, a lot of times, things like that have just become a marketing ploy. And that's sad.
Absolutely. I've seen it too a whole lot.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I mean, granted, early access, you're effectively paying to join an alpha or beta. And the same can be said of getting a game, backing it on Kickstarter. Oftentimes it will be that depending on your tier, you might end up being in waiting for the 1.0 release. And sometimes you're jumping in by paying extra and you are gaining access to it before other people do. And that's okay in my book, honestly, because you know why? It's your choice whether or not to pay on the higher tier to get earlier access than other people, and you're not getting a completely finished product. So I've seen people buy into early access on day one and then complain about bugs and say, why isn't this polished, or things like that, as if there's some magical expectation that that's what they're going to get. I don't know why it happens.
And see, there's also the viewpoint that people get when they see early access games, especially Kickstarter games that never get finished. And this is why, unless I see if it's an early access game and I trust the developer, I'll buy into it. But anymore, you get burned so often. It just, I was in early access to one game and I don't even remember the game, but it was just like, it was great guns and everybody was playing it. It was some voxel space game. And yet it reached the point before it ever even came out that there was only 100 players worldwide and it just was never developed. And so it's like, wow, I really feel burnt on this. And that's why I'm always very cautious about early access games.
It's not unfair. A lot of people have gotten burned by early access. That is completely not unfair.
Kinetic Void comes to mind.
No, I was thinking, what was it? Deep Base 9? Deep, what was that one?
Base DF9.
Yeah.
That was the thing that tried to happen.
Yeah, it tried. It certainly tried.
It did. I'm still angry about that one. I didn't even buy the damn thing. I'm still.
I did.
Oh, you did? Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It was a Devil's game, right?
Serviceable at the time. Just got dropped quarter of the way through development. And ended up with just nothing to do in it.
I'm sorry. Well, this seems like a good time to wrap up. It's been about an hour.
Yep.
So, folks, that's going to do it for this week's podcast. Next week, we actually have a guest. We're going to be welcoming back Ken Burnside of Ad Astra Games. Now, this isn't a video game we're talking about. It's a series of board games. Highly detailed, very serious space fighter dogfight board games, which are above my head. So, Jacob, you're taking the lead on that one next week. By the way.
Absolutely. I was. I am willing to take credit for the idea, and by take credit, I mean take credit for mentioning the podcast in Ken's Discord and him going, "Can I go and talk there?" And I went, "Sure."
Yeah, he came on a while back, and he's a great guest. But board games are not my thing, and I look at it.
I'm more than willing to take over and explain everything how it goes. We're already
appreciated.
I'm already like Ken already asked me what the actual topics should be and what he should talk about. To which I said, we just kind of go nuts.
Well, also
that's how topics tend to go. But sure, fair enough. I'll see if I can come up with something.
At least start off with I'll do a quote from Galaxy Quest. Explain it as you would a child. That's how you got to start off. Because
works for me. Sure works.
I am a toddler when it comes to this stuff, and so it's going to be an interesting show. So it's called they're called Ad Astra Games. They have several games. I think the big one is Squadron Strike. Am I remembering correctly?
Yes, that's the big one that they're coming up with. It is a sort of semi-sequel to Attack Vector Tactical, which is for insane people. Squadron Strike is for normal-ish people. And it is the core one that's currently getting a lot of development. It is getting a lot of modules, and the big... basically, it's... Okay, I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, so I'm not going to explain... if you want to hear about it, come to the podcast next week. Thank you very much.
Save the big... Like, you can talk about it like in big brushstrokes, but like... Yeah, save it for next week. So that's going to be our topic for next week. And no stream tomorrow. I have a work thing I got to do. So no stream tomorrow. We'll see you back here on Friday for more F-19 Stealth Fighter. Have a great one, everyone. Be safe, be well. Thank you, as always, to our patrons who help keep the lights on around here. And thank you, as always, to everyone who's gotten vaccinated. If you haven't gotten vaccinated, for the love of whatever deity you might believe in, please do so. Even if you don't believe in a deity, we live in a goddamn society. So please get vaccinated. Please, for the love of whatever. See you next time, y'all.